I don't know how many of you have had the experience, I know I have, of your dad taking a piece of dental floss, and when your tooth is very, very loose, wrapping that dental floss around that tooth, and then popping it out. You had that experience?
No.
No? You haven't lived yet. Have you had that experience? Nobody has had that experience, huh? Well, that was the way that my dad would pull my tooth out for me. Well, last night, Panayoti has been saying for quite some time that, Daddy, my tooth is loose, and he would show me, and his tooth would be extremely loose, and he would say, and I would say, well, soon it's going to have to come out. Soon we'll have to pull it out. And I don't think he really understood what that meant. I don't think he understood what that experience was. So last night I put a piece of thread on it. I used thread because our floss was flat, and I popped it out, and when that happened, pop, it came out. He looked at it, and then all of a sudden started crying. Please sit down, Panayoti. He started just bawling. And of course, there's that old tale that their tooth fairy would come, right? You put the tooth underneath the bed, the pillow, and in the morning, there would be money. Of course, when I was a kid, it was like a quarter. But, you know, it's inflation now, and now kids get like $5 or $10 or whatever it is.
$1 million.
$1 million possibly. I would lose teeth if I would get $1 million.
Well,
and this morning, Panayoti questioned it. Panayoti came up to Joanne and said, who put this money underneath my pillow?
It was her.
And then he came into me. I was in the kitchen getting ready to come to church. And he says, Daddy, who put the money underneath my pillow? Is the tooth fairy real? Did the tooth fairy do it? So I had two choices. Do I tell my son the truth, or do I not tell him the truth? So I decided to say, the tooth fairy is real, she just doesn't exist. Because she is real, right? Everybody knows who the tooth fairy is. They made movies about her, they made, you know, even The Rock was the tooth fairy, right? But in reality, she doesn't exist. She exists in our parents. She exists in the people that decide to take the time and grab the tooth out and put it underneath the pillow to give that child a reward. There's something tangible there at the end, even though she doesn't exist. And many of those things happen in our lives. We often question what is real, what exists. You know, we question, is love real? Does love exist? Is the love between a husband and a wife, is that real? Does it exist? And what does it take for it to exist? Or a friendship, right? All these things we question. And oftentimes we even hear the question, what does my existence mean? Am I really alive? Do I have a life? Am I full of joy? Am I full of sadness? What is my reality? Those questions are always there. That question was posed to me this morning by my son. Now, a lot of times, we who believe in God, a lot of times we who profess that Christ is in our midst, that Christ is part of our lives, okay? We believe that Christ is real. We believe that he lived and he was born, that he roamed the earth, And then when he turned 33, that he started his ministry, he got baptized. We celebrate all these things throughout the year. We celebrate those things because we believe he was real. But a lot of times, we who believe he was real, does he really exist? Does he really exist? He might exist in the world. He might exist in the gospel that we read, or he may exist in the words that some of these saints spoke to the people. And all the people that when the apostles were going out across the world, when they were preaching this, there was something within the people that was hearing the words. And like I've used Paul for many examples, Paul had no idea that God existed. He had no idea that he was real. And then when these Christians started to sprout up in different places, they then found out they were real, that Jesus was real. But yet, Paul didn't experience him, so he didn't quite exist in his mind, in his heart, in his life. And then when he was knocked off the horse, I've said it many times before, when he had that conversion experience, that's when Christ became real. That's when he existed. Paul's heart was ready, as so many of ours are. And again, weeks ago, I gave the sermon about Jesus knocking on the door. I gave that sermon that when Jesus is knocking on the door, we understand that he is real. He's out there. He's knocking. He's calling us. In the scriptures it says the Spirit woos us. But it's not until we fully embrace his message and embrace who he was and embrace all the things that we are taught that we realize that he exists in our life. And when those heartaches come, when the heart breaks, the devastation of our families and our land and our businesses and all the things that scare us so much, I can't imagine my life without God. I can't imagine having not had that revelation that Jesus Christ is not only real, but he exists within me. He exists to help me to change and shape my world. Not the world, because I can't do that myself. Jesus is the one, when he came down to earth, that he came to change the world. And then when he sent out his apostles and his disciples out among the people, he sent them out into those different places of the world to change their world. That little place, that all those places that Paul went and taught, all those places that Matthew went and visited. It was just waiting to be made a revelation of Jesus Christ. There are so many people out in this world. And one of the most powerful statements I ever heard was, how can those who proclaim to be Christians exalt him with their mouths, but deny him with their lifestyle? But I can go one step further. There are many of those who proclaim to be Christians, but at the end of the same turn, they do everything they can to undermine what it is that Jesus is trying to do in the church or the world or in society. We can see it. We know it's happening. We know it's happening every time we turn on the news. Everything that we know is true, everything that we believe is now being questioned, is now being scrutinized. As, are we prejudiced? Are we Christians evil? Are we Christians some sort of judgmental person that stands atop our mountain or our soapbox and judges other people? And the sad fact is most of the time they're right. Most of the time we are hypocrites. I don't know how many times Jesus said it to the people that were supposed to be the leaders of the day, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. First thing he said to them was, "You hypocrites." Those men that were the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they knew Jesus was real. But he did not exist to them. He was just an opposition so they could get their way. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were upset because Jesus came with this message of love. Not a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. Jesus came and said, when somebody sins against you, turn your cheek so they can slap you on the other side of the face if they've slapped you on the one side. And if somebody asks you to go a mile, go with them too. And if somebody asks you for the very shirt on your back, give it to them and give them your cloak as well. Everything that Jesus came to say, put what the Pharisees and the Sadducees said, and all the things that they believed, and all the things that they taught, and all the things that they understood from the books of Moses and the Torah, and everything else that they believed, Jesus came and turned it upside down. And every time somebody comes like Jesus, he was a rebel, right? A rebel with a cause. He was a rebel. He was a person that came with a mission. And I guarantee you, every time people come like that, the first thing that people are going to do is say, he doesn't believe the same way we do, let's kill him. That's exactly what they did to Jesus. Let's get rid of him. He doesn't agree with what we have to say. And we're not about to stand by and allow him to change the world with his words. Let's kill him. And there was a few of the Pharisees and the Sadducees that did believe in him. I'm not saying that they were all that way. And all the people, most of these men and women that we feature on these icons, same thing. Last week we spoke about God's will, thy will be done. What Jesus said when he was kneeling down in the Garden of Gethsemane, "O Lord, take this cup away from me, if it's your will. But if it's not your will for me, for this cup to go away, then it's your will, and it's your will that I want to live. Thy will be done." It was your will that I go to the cross. It was your will that I save the people from themselves. And it's the same message that every single one of these saints that we have pictured on the walls brought to the world. And hopefully, God willing, it's the same message that the priests and the deacons and the pastors and whoever else that is called to be a servant of God is bringing to the people. And we have to have the strength and the fortitude and the guts to preach what is real, so that hopefully Christ will exist within the halls of your heart. We have this great opportunity every time we wake up in the morning to praise God, no matter how much we're hurting, no matter how much depressed we are, how sad we are, how afraid we are, our voice carries so much weight. How many of us, when we wake up in the morning, say, "Oh Lord, it's morning," or "Good morning, Lord"? Our voices set the precedent for the day. Our voices set what we're going to do. God is a God of revelation and a God who makes things real. And when things seem glum, things seem desperate, when things seem that they're going to end and die and wither away, that's when God's glory shines through. We just got to have the patience to believe and to trust and to know that He exists in this world and He exists in our hearts. But He is not part of the world. He exists here, but He is not part of the world. We are not supposed to be a part of the world. So today, as we prepare ourselves to receive the gifts, the mystery that the Holy Spirit comes down and changes this bread and changes this wine into the body and blood of Christ, that we will prepare our hearts and glorify Him and allow Him to actually enter into our heart through this mystery. And we can glorify Him and praise His name. Amen.